Man, we're back.
Hells yeah.
Dude, I got my waders out. Put them on. Put on my boots. They've got a picture of me when I was playing dress up. So.
Is that what you go for as Halloween, man?
Nah, man. It's too expensive, man.
All right. Have you ever dressed up for Halloween before?
Okay. Now that you asked, let's tell you a little story. All right. So the reason you would even ask that is because you know that our family, obviously, we didn't really do Halloween. So
that's right.
Of course you'd have to ask me if I have ever done that. And the answer is yes. And I haven't told you the story.
All right.
But the first time, and the only time I've ever dressed up for Halloween, it was spontaneous.
Okay.
So I just grabbed whatever was available, and I happened to find a pair of wings. So I skipped around, and I was a fairy for Halloween.
Dude.
Skipped from door to door. I was probably 22 years old, and I was with a group of kids, and I was the fairy. So
did you at least have drugs on board? Because I'm concerned now. Like, I've never heard this story about you dancing around.
I got an adrenaline rush from the first time ever trick-or-treating, and a candy rush at the same time, right? And I was with other people my age who were not participating in the trick-or-treating.
Wow. Did you get a lot of candy at least? I
got a ton of candy, and a lot of adults would just stand back and watch me.
I would have stood back and watched you too, man. I can't blame you.
I mean, I was still in shape, and I used to be able to dunk with one or two hands, and I wasn't exactly the most athletic person, but in those moments, right, I could still get up pretty good. And so when I was skipping, I was like touching like a rim, like I was jumping 10 feet high, and I was skipping my ass off.
Wow.
What about you, bro? You tell me.
Well, I dressed up one time, and that was last year. I got a picture of it. I'll show you.
Oh, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father except by the dude.
I dressed up like Jesus, and it was crazy, man. Like, I had a whiskey glass with me.
Yeah.
And our neighborhood is unbelievable. They're really amazing people. And I literally, my whiskey glass would get down to like half of a shot left, and it would mysteriously just keep on refilling.
That's because you were the Jesus, bro.
I wish I could turn it into wine, but I'll take whiskey all day.
Into whiskey.
It was insane. Like all of our neighbors, man, they would see it and see me dressed up and my kids dressed up, and they would come over and put some more whiskey in my glass. And dude, I love it, man. I love having those adventure with kids. And
I gotta grab my phone. Keep talking though.
Yeah, it's fun stuff, man. Fun stuff. But I don't know, man. I'm gonna show you
my waiter's outfit, since you got to show everybody your Jesus outfit.
Yeah, let me see what you look like in those. How thin are they? Are they gonna be keeping you warm?
I don't know. That's to be determined. All right, man. It's kind of funny.
Yes, you got the stance too, man. Look at you with that belly. Yeah,
I'm a little bit too proud of my outfit, but
that's great, man.
I wasn't planning on showing anybody that. That was kind of like ha ha ha, and then the picture was taken, and I'm like, oh shit. Well, there you go. But
I love it.
We hope that you guys are joining us on YouTube or podcast video. But if you're not, then you just have to imagine what we look like, Dave as Jesus or me in my waiter outfit. But you can check out the video. We got the sexified versions of us up on video right now. Come and get it.
Yeah, and I gotta say this is when Mark and I started this podcast 2 years ago, I had just started growing out my hair. Mark was about as long as I was when 2 years ago. Mark, flip your hair around, because I know you got pulled back, but just pull that tail there. There you go. So Mark's hair is pretty long these days. My hair is pretty long. We just chill. I think that's the biggest thing that people need to recognize about Mark and I is, we do our own jobs. We work. We do what we need to do to get by. Our wives are incredibly successful, and we like to let them be successful. Well, we do what we want.
And I throw on a jacket to pretend like I went somewhere today. But it's all right. They're Italian.
I got my nipples.
That's why
I got my nipples hard, just so people can see. There we go.
Nice. That's good. I only wear Italian jackets because they fit right and they're smooth and they're not hot. So if anybody wants some advice, You know,
You
they're
only like to
classy,
wear
bro.
$1,000 jackets. I get it.
Well, it's. I mean, it's.
I would
You got to
too.
do it, bro.
I would too.
You got to look good, and that's why I have a closet full of Italian jackets. Plus, I don't buy them new, bro. That's the key. Is I get them used. So there you go, everybody. You're in our business now, but still, we had this one guy at our church back in the day. He said
I was about to say this, dude. This is so funny.
he only had jackets that somebody would wear one time, and they would just give them to him. And I thought about that for a while, and I'm definitely not that. You know, I'm the guy that somebody sells them to after they've worn them a few times and they still look good.
Well, let's just put it out there. This is the same person that got arrested for fraud,
Right.
and there's a really, really good chance that those jackets were purchased by him anyways, and he just acted
right.
like somebody gave them to him.
Here's what
So,
I want
like,
to say about the fraud case, that church allegedly, we have to state that all of that. Now, there are some things from our church that aren't alleged. Like, we were close friends with a pastor who, his kid, we were close friends with a kid. Pastor went and robbed a few banks, right?
Oh yeah.
That we can say because he actually was caught. So
It was six banks. He got caught.
Yeah.
And listen, the story gets crazier. He only robbed those banks, right? Because he fell in love with a stripper.
Don't
All right,
fall in
now-
love with a stripper.
Right? Now check this out.
That's the rule number one for this show. I hope that
Check
you guys
this
have
out.
been paying attention long enough.
I've been for a long time wanting to do a T-shirt or something like that, right? For this show. But I think our first T-shirt should say, the stripper made me do it. The last one.
The stripper made me do it. All right.
Because that is one of the greatest stories ever that we have, is that we used to bump shoulders with some guy that spent 10 years in jail for robbing banks at a federal level. So, I mean, that's
Hey.
pretty cool.
We didn't know him personally.
But he was a pastor.
He was a
And we knew his
pastor.
daughters.
We were friends with his kids before and after it happened. So, obviously, you know, all the things that go with that, your dad's
We won't
robbing
name
banks.
names.
You can imagine that would be like really, really difficult to deal with. And your dad was robbing banks because he fell in love with a stripper. And you're like, shit, dude, it's like nobody will really believe us when we say this because it's like, how could that be true? But it is. It is. And someday we'll tell you guys the names, but we'll do it unrelated because we've told too much personal information right now. Dave, you go now.
No, I was gonna say, like, this last weekend I saw my dad up in Gettysburg, and I was talking to my wife about, you know, I've kissed a moose before, right, guys? It's not that big of a deal to me, whatever.
Confession
But
time with Dave. I have been intimate with a moose.
that moose a week later, trampled and killed a lady, right? So I'm telling my wife this
It's
story
because
for
you
the
were
100th
such
time.
a good kisser, bro.
It was disappointed. For the 100th time I was telling my wife the story, and my dad pipes up and is like, every time I hear this story, it gets crazier and crazier. And I'm like, it's only gone one way. I kiss a moose. I mean, there's nothing else to the story. And that's not exactly how it went. So now I'm like, what the hell? Like, this entire last, 26 years of my life, I've always kissed a moose. And then my dad's like, that's not exactly how it went. So I'm confused now. I'm almost
Did he
like
tell
have
you
to
how
go
it
back
went?
to reboot.
Did he tell you? He didn't give you any.
No, he just said that's not how it went. I was like, then how did it go? And he's like, everybody, there's two sides to every story. And I'm like, holy shit, what did I did I miss something here? And I really didn't kiss a moose? And I don't know, man. I'm confused as shit because
It's gonna be hard to
supposedly,
explain all those half moose, half man babies, though.
what is it? A moose man baby.
Yeah.
All right, guys, help us out with a
What
nickname for a
about
moose
okay?
man
So
baby.
isn't a centaur?
We'll come up
Isn't
with
that
that
the
one.
half horse, half man? Isn't that called a centaur? I think. So. Well,
Mantar.
anyway, if anybody's had any half moose, half people babies, let us know what you name them. We're all in for it, but
Gee, that's amazing, man.
all right. So other than us fishing and making out with animals and various things like that, we have a show to go, and
Yes.
unfortunately, we're gonna start off with some really, really shitty news. Couple of things. First of all, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williams out with injury. Did you watch the Zion Williams?
Do you have it?
It's going to take 2 seconds to pull up because I didn't
cool.
pull it up. Which is the number one rule with all of this is have this shit pulled up first. That way we can keep talking no matter what. So it's
good.
a 30-second ESPN commercial. You know how those go. Or 15
I just want to
second.
say with the Zion Williamson dunk is that we've seen him go up before, and people not take lightly to it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like Zion is such a big person. If you're gonna foul him, you just can't.
He didn't foul him though. Dude, it looks like a foul, but it wasn't a foul, bro. It was a clean block.
I thought he fouled him.
It was a clean block. Yeah.
Wow.
Antonio Davis, who does the announcing for the Pelicans, who used to be with the Thunder,
Yeah.
he even saw it, dude. And he's like, yeah, that was a clean block. Look, dude, I don't want to see Zion hurt. I want to see Zion successful. And it's just been really hard to watch his career unfold. I'd say, like, it's a huge concern. But watch, yeah, it's a clean block, bro.
Wow.
I know.
Man.
I don't want to see him go down, bro, but it's also like they're rushing him back. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
It's like we see him, oh, he's doing great, he's healthy, he's working out, and then they throw him into games, and it's like him out of everybody. Like ramp him up, give him some time. But now he's back on the injury wagon, and who knows? It could be another season of that. I'm hoping not. He's got that big contract. I mean, I hope he just plays because he's one of the best players to watch playing.
Yeah, when he's healthy. I mean,
did you see what happened to Ingram, bro? I'm sorry to cut you off.
I did not see Ingram's injury. No, I
didn't see it either. But obviously, that's devastating. The Pelicans were up to have like a good year, a step up year.
I was saying. I don't know who I was talking to the other day, but I was talking to somebody, and they're asking like, "Who's the team in the West that we got to be careful about to keep an eye on?" I'm like, "Oh, the Pelicans." Like with CJ, Zion, and Brandon Ingram, you've got one of the best three-headed monsters in the league.
Right. Now you got CJ. Hey, CJ can fill it up, so he might be able to keep him afloat while everything sorts out. But yeah, a rough start for them. Injuries are the worst thing to talk about, man. You know what I mean?
I hate it.
A couple days ago, go ahead.
Yeah, especially with, Shea's got the contusion to his hip that wasn't able to play. I think that was more just we're not playing Shea back-to-back games more than anything. Because if it was a more serious injury, then I would be more concerned of how many weeks he's going to miss at this point.
Yeah. I mean,
then
they started out with the season. He wasn't even in the preseason. So
yeah.
I mean, everybody listening already knows that. But, like, it's relevant. You know what I mean? Like,
then you got third quarter comes along. Josh Giddey sprains his ankle after only playing in 22 minutes, 23 minutes of the game. And it's like, here we go again. Like, we've said it in the beginning of the season. Like, we thought that this team could go blank to 35 wins.
40. That was the number I kept pushing around.
Yeah.
With Chet, I was thinking 50. Without Chet, I was thinking 40 if we stayed healthy. We had that talent. Okay, so you were going 32, 35. You were reasonable. I have not been reasonable.
I just felt like 32, 35, and it's still accomplishable. But the problem is that if this is how it's going to go,
but we knew this.
We only see these guys together for 2 or 3 games. It's going to be hard.
We knew this coming into the season. We could lose the first 10 games. Like, we have the toughest, schedule in the NBA. We know that. So then you go, okay, SGA. He really only had 1 game at full strength before he sat. Giddey. So this becomes one of the really best things for this team ever.
Yep.
Right? It was an opportunity for the young players to get their chances. And who do we see going out there? Now, first of all, already this team misses J-Dub. Jalen Williams,
so bad.
Sinclair. Like there were so many times in the game I was like, this would be his time to shine. This would be his time to shine. We need a ball handler. We need somebody who's aggressive, can knock down shots. Like every game, we need more of those guys. So of course we miss him, but
sure,
we saw some good moments from Ousmane Dieng. And look, it's going to come through in moments for him. Like it's not going to be like automatic. Oh yeah, Ousmane Dieng is going out there dominating, but he's figuring out the pace of the game. He's getting better at it, and I'm impressed with the skill level he has already.
There's no rush with Ousmane. You know, like
Yeah,
anybody
for
that's
sure.
like, oh, well, we want to see him, you know, with this or that with Usman. Listen, it's getting the minutes when he possibly can. The matchups that he's good matchups against, we're going to see him more. But I saw him a couple times drive to the hole strong and then pull up short, you know, or pull up a dribble early. And it's not because he is unaware of what's happening. He's well aware of what's happening. It's just the lanes close up a whole lot faster when there's intensity and everything else like that. And that's everything that's happening right now is he's driving to the hole and he's going hard, and then the lane closes. And instead of forcing the shot, he resets it. And that's not a bad thing. That just shows you his IQ.
Yep. And that's the thing. Learning without turnovers, finding ways to shoot the ball within rhythm as, you know, the shot clock demands that you have to shoot with confidence. You know, finding ways to assert your length defensively.
Yep.
We saw him do that in transition.
Sure.
Like, if you're in an NBA fast break, right,
Yep.
and you got a rookie guarding the basket, forget about it. But then you all of a sudden realize Usman's down there, and
you're resetting.
Yeah, he's different, man. He's different. He can guard the ball, right? Get back and guard the basket, and then go out and close out on the perimeter. And like all without necessarily, without getting out of whack, you know, or overextending himself, giving up an and one. So I'm a big fan of what he brings to the table, but it's going to be in moments. We saw our starting lineup was a bit adjusted. Obviously, it's going to be
weird right now. Yeah,
it is a bit weird, but we saw Poku coming off the bench, and we saw him do a few good things. Now, the thing about it is, a lot of people are like, "Oh, they have these expectations," but we're looking at like, can we find a couple of? Yeah, exactly. Like, well, with Poku, I mean, it seems like they're always disappointed, and I don't get it. But
that's the thing is, it's so strange to me. Is like Poku and Baisley, right?
Yeah.
If you look them look at them as defenders first, you've got two great talented players. But if you try to look at them and force them into being offensive players, like, you just don't understand their game. I'm sorry, Baisley's never going to go out there and average 18 points a game. Poku's not going to probably average 18 points a game out there either. So if they're not going to average 18 points a game, you got to be content with them averaging 10, 12 points a game and being a lockdown defender. That's that.
Right. Defend the perimeter when you're called on, and defend the basket every time you have an opportunity.
Every time.
And then find ways to be plus players on offense, whether that means from crashing their boards, you know, knocking down open shots, or just moving the ball from side to side. That's really what we ask the most from each of the players, is to keep the ball moving. Right.
That's it.
So if those guys do those things, the ball finds, you know, Giddey, SGA, Dort, and those guys have scoring opportunities. But let's talk a little bit about Dort. We've seen 3 games so far, $85 million contract, 87.5, whatever. So let me ask you, do you think that he feels like he has to take more of the offensive burden on, and that's limiting his defensive impact?
I think he spent a lot of time working on his offense this last year. I was pulling up as you're talking about his stats last night. 20 points, not that bad in 30 minutes. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Keep on going. And the one thing that really stood out to me is plus minus, which I don't really give a shit about. But he was minus 29. That's something that is so un-Dort. You know, like we don't see Dort minus 29. We see Dort minus, you know, here and there because his defense is so spectacular. But he took a lot of shots.
In a game like, you know, against the second game against the Timberwolves, right? Or really any of the 3 games that we've played so far, when you have a tendency to fall behind double digits, right? If you're not on the court when the run happens, then you're going to have a massive negative plus minus, and it's not your fault.
That's true.
So we saw the same with Kenny the first game, like where he had, I think, a negative 19. And it's not an assessment of their skill level. It's just like the coach put together these lineups, and certain ones did well. They rode those lineups, and then they came back in, you know, right when the other team was starting to make their run. And, you know, like we saw, like these games have been such massive runs. There have been times where it felt like we were hanging on the edge and we may not be in the game for 4 quarters, and then we found a way to compete, even though, did it really feel like we had a chance to win? Like, probably not. Like, well, we had a chance because of one possession game, right? We could have had this series of things, but we weren't playing from the lead. We haven't had a game really where we've been playing from the lead. We had a few minutes where we were in the lead the first game, but that evaporated. We've had chances where we felt like, hey, if we play at this level, which is the best we played, we could compete. But in the end, we're still putting in young players who are figuring out the rotations, and everybody's getting opportunities. So it hasn't been smooth, but I love the rotations. I love seeing players like JRE get out there, knock down shots, and even in the face of quite a bit of adversity against the Timberwolves, when we went from being in single digits for most of the fourth quarter to them just really opening up a gash and it being a 20-point game, we didn't see anybody in the stands boo, on the court quit, or turn their back on anything, and then they were able to just fight and grind it back down to 10, even though it wasn't that close of a game. You got to love it. That's what we're all about.
All right. I'm going to throw this at you here. Favorite player from last night, man? Which of the guys stood out to you the most?
Well, bro, it's hard.
All right.
It's hard because the guy I really want to talk about
Let's just go to the bench.
Amarui. That's what I want to talk about, right? Cool. I just feel like the first game we saw him play against the Timberwolves, he was called on to go and guard Cat, right?
Yeah.
Go guard Towns. He's a 7-footer, and he did a great job. And then last night, we see him go out there, and they put him on Ant.
Yeah.
And they're like, man. Go start. Like, what the fuck? That is called defensive versatility at the highest level. And he was the reason that the score wasn't as ugly at the end. So I can't be like, I'm just going to wrap my arms around him. Because he's still, he hasn't worked his way into the rotation. But once he does, dude, get used to him because he's not going to fall out.
I absolutely loved for the 7 minutes and 47 seconds that Jay Will played last night, man.
Oh, yeah, he looked good. 3
offensive rebounds, 3 defensive rebounds.
A charge?
A charge. The first thing he did was a charge. 4 points. Listen, he is not, this is his first game. And I want to, huge shout out. He is the first NBA player of Vietnamese descent to play in the NBA, in a game in the NBA. Hell fucking yes, man. This is the way it needs to be going. I love how the NBA is embracing more countries as things are going on. Obviously, Jay Will lived in Arkansas with his family. But, man, this is just exciting. I'm pumped for Jay Will because he deserves to be out there playing a bunch of minutes. And 7 minutes, and people are like, why didn't he get more playing time? He's coming off of being sick, injury, whatever it was. I think it was strep throat, right?
Yeah, that's what...
Yeah, so no wonder why he didn't play more than 7 minutes. Man, if you've ever had strep throat and then you get back from having strep throat and you go out and try to run around, you feel like shit. There's nothing that helps you when you're running around. So watching Jay Will get his first charge, cement himself as going to be the charger, of the future of the NBA is exciting because if you look at, the hustle stats, man, I was looking at hustle stats and yeah, Jay Will has 1, but there's only a few guys that have 3 or more charges this year. So that's going to be Jay Will. When we're looking at it, it's going to be like, oh, wow, he has 7 or 8. Well, that leaves the NBA. He has 9 or 10. Well, that leaves the NBA. And it's a matter of time before he gets 6 or 7 charges in one game. That's how good he is at deceiving people with the charge.
There was a couple of times where his movement to the spot wasn't right because he doesn't know the speed of the players. He hasn't learned the opponents. It was a good move, but it was half a step shy of a charge. There was a time where he got to the right spot, but the player stopped because he didn't step up quite enough. Every single time there's a drive, he's trying to figure out how to entice the player into running into him. And you're right. There is going to be a point where we look back and he's like, wow, he's coming off the bench and he's leading the NBA in charges taken.
Well, when you have guys that are going out there like JRE and stepping up and playing a massive game and making, again, I keep throwing it back at you and just saying, I didn't lose faith in JRE, but watching him in this preseason, I had a hard time being like, did he lose a step to Jay Will? Did he lose a step to these other guys? And you were like, all along, you're like, no, man, JRE is a professional. He understands that this is only preseason. He understands that there's a second gear. He understands there's a third gear. He'll be all right. And you're right, man. Like, what he did last night was unbelievable. Second in points for last night on our team. He had 15 points, 1 steal, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. He was 3 for 4 on 3-pointers, which, man, if you get the ball to him in the corner, that thing's fucking going in. Like, his corner 3 is elite. And I'm telling you guys, if this isn't a second coming of Kevin Love, I don't know who is.
Absolutely, man. It's going to be fun. And the progression, it's there. We got some big minutes from Moose last night. I don't have the stats in front of me, so
all right,
I think he was around
11
right
points.
around 17 points. How many?
11 points.
11, I was wrong.
9 rebounds. He was 1 for 3 and 3-pointers. But, man, he showed that he's got it. And listen, if we get that type of Mike in the fourth quarter of games, bro, come on, that's what we need. We need Mike to go out there, and he played 11 minutes, which is the entire fourth quarter, right? If he just goes out there and plays 11 minutes of every single fucking game and he averages, 10 points, he's our best closer as center that we have.
Right. And one of the things that we saw happen with Minnesota was when they went on their run, like that group they had out there, Noel, Naz Reid, and they had Ant out there, I believe. They kept Russell on the bench, and they had Towns on the bench. But really what they did was they went to 5 shooters. They really, really spread that court. And they put a big run on us in that moment. And you look at it and you say, like, what are we going to do late in the fourth quarter? We want to open up a lead, and we're going to go to 5 shooters, right?
Sure.
Well, put Muscala at the 5, like you said. He's our best closer. Okay, cool. Now, who do you put at the 4, right? It's really up to you. You can go Jang or J-Dub or J-Will, right? Or you can go JRE, right? And all of these are bringing different combinations of, J-Will's the least proven shooter, I would say, at this stage, even though it's, 2 of those guys are also rookies. But then you go to the second-year players from last year, you could bring in Aaron Wiggins at the 4. Like, he's capable of going small ball lineup. So you get to the point where you get 5 shooters on the court who can also, switch defensively. And that's how you have like a closing lineup that doesn't require, SGA or Giddey. Like, you want those guys, but you don't want to have to wait for them to go on your runs.
Man, you're right. I have one of my best friends of all time. His name is Blake Thompson. Really great guy. Love that guy. Anyways, whenever we talk about the Thunder, it's inevitable we're going to have a love fest about J-Dub every single time. Like, J-Dub is going to just come out and just, like, people don't even understand how Mark and I love J-Dub, much less some of the other people that we know inside of our circle, how much they love J-Dub. Like, this guy is going to be next level. I don't know if we understand truly how good he's going to be, but I do know this, is that halfway through the year, when J-Dub is taking serious minutes on that court, everybody's going to look at it and say, okay, this team isn't like we thought it was. This team structure isn't this, and this. This team structure is going to be Shea, J-Dub, Giddey, Ousmane Dieng, and Chet, right? I mean, that's the future of what we have here, okay? We have Dort. We have all these other guys, and I'm not talking shit on Dort because I think the way that Dort plays right now, he can slide in there, and we end up moving over Ousmane Dieng into that bench role and moving J-Dub into that 4 spot because he can play that spot. This is what's insane about this team is we can sit here and talk about 20 different lineups about we like. Different guys here, different guys there. That is what's insane about this team. This is not like a team that we've had in the past where all of our weaknesses are just blaring out, right? We watched last night. We're down by 20-plus points, and this team comes roaring back, right? If we had, 5 more minutes, we probably win. 6 more minutes, we probably win.
Well, yeah, I mean, theoretically, but then, the flip side of it is, they could have put in their starters, but
sure.
The team that was going on their run wasn't their starters, so we can go back and forth. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That game didn't feel like a winnable game.
No, it never felt like a winnable game, but that's the thing about it, though, is that's where you see the heart of the players.
Right.
And when you don't have a winnable game and they still make it respectable, Like that shows you have the heart of your team as a coach. You're like, hey guys, we're not going to get this win, but let's go bust ass for the next, 7-8 minutes of this game. Let's go show them why we didn't want to, like, if we were healthy, what we would play like or whatever, and we went out there and we just fucking dominated. And that's what gets me excited, man. Like, we watched Ant go off at 30 points last night in the 34 minutes he played. Shot okay. I mean, 50% pretty much, but from three. But I felt like that's the Shea factor. If Shea is guarding Ant, he doesn't go off for 30, right? So, and you're looking at the rest of the team, if we had J-Dub there, if we had Josh Giddey for the whole game and all this other stuff, then we're winning by 10. And that's the way I look at it. Like, when the pieces all are coming together and as they're being placed, and looking at Jalen Williams, who got his first minutes in the game last night, only 8 points or 8 minutes, but he was so significantly, such a huge impact in that 8 minutes. Is what happens when his role gets expanded to 16 minutes? What happens when Osman Jang starts consistently putting up points? He had 5 points last night, but again, he just felt like he was attacking the hole and pulling up because the lanes were closing. And when you're going up against Rudy Gobert or some of these other guys, you want to be careful, man. And that's why I get excited about it, is because he understands that. Like some of these rookie guys are like, ooh, open lane and go hard. And then by the time that they get to the lane, it's already closed. They're getting a charge, a block shot, whatever. Like Usman gets it. He goes, attacks, pulls up. And I like it because you have guys like that are like Poku out there that, he might be in a bad spot. He's still taking that shot. And that's not a bad thing because that just shows you, like, coach trusts him in those positions. So he's probably hitting those shots in practice. So guess what? We're going to keep going to him because eventually, during the season, when he starts hitting that shot, he's going to be incredibly effective. So some of the stuff that we're seeing right now, it's just the team trying to figure out where everybody's at and putting the pieces together. And it's going to take time. And that's what's frustrating, that we had the toughest 10 games of our schedule all right here. I wouldn't say toughest 10 games of the schedule, but our toughest 10 of our next 40 games, right? If you think about that, there's probably 5 other games that you can throw in there, okay? And that's our schedule. 15 of the next 40 games are difficult games. And 10 of them are in this 10 shot right here. So
yeah, and it's gonna pile up, bro.
It is. And I mean, like, if we don't get healthy and we don't get things out there, we could go 0-10. We could go 0-15. Like, we knew that. That's the thing. I don't even care if we do.
We knew that when we looked at the schedule. We were like, yeah, this is, like, the key, though. Like, you'll win games if you play the way we have been, which is you don't give up, you give yourself a chance, and then one of these nights you'll get hot. But at the same time, you're young enough where there's no guarantees. Maybe you won't get hot one of these nights. Maybe you don't win any of those games, even though you're playing well. Like, these teams are good.
They're very good.
These teams are at the phase of, like, okay, they're trying to make the next push, next push, and we're still here trying to figure out how to, create the first push. And it's going to take time, but every time we see another one of our veterans, even though they're just second-year players, go out, like, the tendency can be to be like, oh, well, this is depressing. But you have to look at it and be like, we knew this would happen. We knew that
we did.
We were deeper than 10 deep for a reason, because there was going to be times where 3, 4, even 5 players were out. Go back to last year, it seems like we were missing like 7 of our top 10 at different times or more. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how we were putting out teams at the end. It was like we had 5 or 6 players. So there's going to be times, and, without Chet out there, it's obviously going to, create more difficulty. Without J-Dub, it's going to intensify things. And basically, we're running out a slightly different version of last year at this stage. At the end of last year, when SGA's not out there, when Giddey's not out there,
we had similar stats to last year.
Yeah.
And shooting-wise.
Right.
And
so
that's just not what we want.
What we have to look for is those little things from the young players that we can build on. And, like, sometimes it'll be like with Jang, like, hey, look, he's coming along, even though it's slowly, he's figuring it out. He looks better now in the NBA than he did last year at the beginning of his time in the NBL.
True.
So that says a lot about him. Omorui's out there, putting on that, making his case for the next hustle guy that can earn, like, go from a two-way contract to earn a full contract. Like, these are the things that are important,
Yeah, dude. I like Omoruyi. I watched in the preseason. I felt like, again, we don't take what happens in the preseason. We try to take what happens in the preseason light, but especially when a player that, nobody's really ever heard of or heard of very little, all of a sudden stands out. Like, you don't go and be like, oh my gosh, like, this player's going to be amazing. You're like, okay, yeah, see how he can do in NBA games. Omoruyi is proving he can play. And I don't know. What happened to Baisley last night? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
Only played 4 minutes. I don't know if he got injured or if he got benched or what. I want to find out because Lindy Waters played 14 minutes last night. And again, we see a lot of people on Twitter that's, come on, Coach D, put this person in instead of Waters, or give Isaiah Joe more playing time, or give Jalen Williams more playing time. Like, Isaiah Joe's got to earn his spot. You're not just going to hand him playing time, right? Omoruyi, he's got to earn his spot. You can't just hand him playing time. And Lindy Waters has earned that fucking spot. Last year, what he did at the end of the season to help us and get us through those shitty times, he's earned that spot. So give him the 14 minutes that he deserves. Everybody else has got to get out there and prove what they can do. So Lindy Waters, I felt like, had a great game. He had 3 points, 1 offensive rebound. So, whatever. But he had 6 3-pointers that he took.
Yeah.
So I like that. That's what I want from Lindy. That's what I want from Trey, man. That's what I want, from Dort when he's coming out. I want these guys to shoot. Like, Dort needs to shoot. Like, I understand when people are like, oh, Dort doesn't need to shoot as much. Yes. No, Dort needs to score 20-plus points a game for this team to be really, really good. We need these guys to shoot. And our shooting guards, which are forwards, which is kind of crazy thinking about, right? You've got Lindy Waters. You got Trey Mann, who's more of a point guard / shooting guard, right? You've got Isaiah Joe, who's a shooting guard, and then the rest of them are just forwards that we have that can shoot the ball lights out. I like that, man. Like, I like the way that we can shoot. Last night, we shot 22% from three-pointers, 9 for 41. That's enough to kick you in the balls.
But we're playing against a team that is out there, and they got 2 7-footers who, like, every time that we would give up an offensive rebound, I was, like, devastated, right? But at the same time, it was like, that's what this team is supposed to do.
Sure.
The Timberwolves are supposed to be able to shoot till they miss. Till they make it. Just because they have these guys that are supposed to go out there and get offensive rebounds. So, it's one of those things where it hurts. You play a great possession for 24 seconds, and then you give them the ball back. Well, okay. Like, we'll have to get better at, that type of stuff, but you can't think like, well, this team that's built to do this, we're just going to come out there and stop them from doing what they want to do. Like, that's, like, you can try, you can work at it, but in the end, it's not going to happen just because you want it. Yeah,
and last night, it's all about what you want, right? We saw these guys yet again have 11 offensive rebounds in a game. That's huge. This is the first time we've been beat during the season. Minnesota Timberwolves, they had 12 offensive rebounds. But why I bring it up is last time we played them, you had Rudy Gobert, who had like 7 offensive rebounds, right? Not again. He only had 2. And I was really proud of the guys and how they were able to step up and really shut that off for him. Yeah, other guys got offensive rebounds, but they spread them all out. There's only a few of the guys that had 2, and the rest of the guys had 1. And that's what we need, man. We need to see these guys give hustle and do whatever it takes to get those small things that need to be done. And hustle plays and hustle possessions are so much of what happens and dictate what happened later in the game. Because if you are out hustling a team and you're getting every loose ball and you're getting every little possession like that, the fourth quarter comes and you have a little cushion and lead, right? The team's already devastated because they can't get anything going their way. And then they start complaining about the refs. Then they start complaining about stuff that's uncontrollable. And then that fourth quarter turns into a shit show. And we watched this team the last couple of third quarters bounce back, and then the fourth quarter bounce back last night. But we've seen this team do that. When everybody's so focused on, like, we're doing good, let's just go ahead and play good defense and take good shots. Everybody else is doing other things. And here's this team just being like, hey, we're good. We got to keep on doing what we're doing. In that third quarter, we'll be all right. In that fourth quarter, we'll be all right. There's no rush. Like, listen, when we get 4 good quarters to be put together in one game, it's going to be impressive. And I'm stoked. I'm stoked for this team, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're just going to stick with it, man. Like, there's not a lot more to say about it. I mean, we obviously want to see this team be successful, but we understand that this is a process. It takes time. And with some of the setbacks that we've already experienced this season, like, it's just going to take a little bit longer. But in the end, that's cool because we want to see these young guys get out and play. We want to see them play meaningful minutes. We want to see them go out there and get some wins. So I'm excited about seeing how that turns out. All right. Harsh subject change. So the Yankees are out. You're hoping we wouldn't get to this.
Yeah, I was hoping that we're like, okay, we're good.
All right, man. Astros sweep them.
Oh,
The ALCS. All right. Next subject, dude. Russell Westbrook.
what's up with this today?
Benched.
All right, what's up with Russ, man?
He got benched. I feel like this is like not even a surprise, but the Lakers lost another game. They're 0-3.
Woot. Joining us in the 0-3.
Right. And apparently everybody's thinking it's Russ's fault. Of course it's Russ's fault. That's what everybody always says. It's always been Russ's fault. The team wins not because of Russ, because of everybody else, and the team loses because of Russ. It's been like that forever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. What do you think?
I think it's crazy how many 0-3 teams there is already in the season. Usually there's not this many. So there's 6 of them. Let's go through them. Some are surprised, some shouldn't be a surprise. Orlando, 0-3. Philadelphia 76ers, 0-3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles Lakers, 0-3. Sacramento Kings, yeah, that's right, 0-3, baby. Houston Rockets, man, they are killing it today, just not in the right way. Their point differential is negative 12.4, so they really fucking suck. And they're 0-3 as well. Of course, us, we're 0-3.
That's right.
But that's
Thunder
okay.
up.
We'll take it. We're only 7.4 point differential, so that's not a bad stat right there for us. But let's just go through some of the teams that are surprising. San Antonio 2-1, right? Oh, Portland 3-0. That's a surprise. Utah. What the fuck, dude? Utah got better and they traded their best players away. They're 3-0.
Right.
Right? What is going on in the West? And then you got in the East, man, you got Toronto's 1-2. You've got, I mean, New York's in 8th place in the East right now. Like, what the fuck's going on? You have Cleveland 2-1, not a big surprise. Milwaukee 2-0, Boston 3-0, Charlotte 2-1. What? Charlotte's 2-1? Jesus Christ, man. Oh, Charlotte's 2-1 because they've had 2 away games. That makes more sense.
Dude, Charlotte, man. You think they're going to be able to hang on?
No, dude. This is the pinnacle of their season right here, bro.
There you go. It's been called by Dave. Hey,
And
so
then
did you see
Phoenix?
Go ahead.
Phoenix
Go
and
ahead, go
Golden State, man. You got 2-1 each over there. You know,
Yeah.
that's a good job by those two guys. And Minnesota, they're 2-1, but their only 2 wins are against us. So I don't know how far you want to throw that cookie.
Yeah, I mean, you have to question the validity of that if that's all they get. But hey, man, so I'm trying to pull it up, dude, but I can't. Everybody's just gonna have to take my word for it. But there's a dunk Dave was trying to show me by Jacques Landell.
Yes, Jacques Landell.
Unfortunately, it's not pulling up, bro. I'm sitting here watching a spinny thing. So,
all right.
New player for the Phoenix Suns, but he played with the Spurs last year. He is from Australia, and you know how much we love the Aussies, so we got to go ahead and give him a shout out. It seems like he's cracked the rotation, and he's earned a spot with the Suns, and that's great. I like seeing what he's doing. I love seeing Australian players do well in the NBA and keep them coming.
Yeah, and let's just go over where Jock played because I think it matters. He played in Melbourne in 2020 and 2021. He pretty well. He averaged 16.4 points a game, half a steal, 1.59 blocks a game, 2.3 is 7 assists, which is it's really good for a center. You don't see a lot of centers averaging 2.37 assists. Rebounds were great at 8. So really good job in the NBL for his first year. And then last year he got to play for Coach Popovich for 54 games. Now, he averaged 10 minutes a game in those 54 games and started one game. I was impressed with him last year. I know Mark and I were talking about before we got on the podcast. I like these 6'11", 7-foot guys that can do multiple things, guard multiple positions. They don't need to just be a center. So if you're looking at Phoenix Suns and you have one player that I feel like is going to stand out really well with this team and the way he seals and the way he understands the game, Jock Landell is going to do that. He is going to be a surprise player this year that is going to really rock just the NBA in the aspect of here's another Australian player coming out of pretty much nowhere, because I want to say he went to a small college in let's see.
St. Mary's is who he's, or I mean, yeah, I think you said.
Yeah, St. Mary's College of California.
Yeah.
So, like a small college. So, man, I love it, man. This is what he needs to do. And I love the fact that here we are talking about another NBL player that yes, he played, college hoops here, but he still went back and played 1 year in Melbourne, which is, again, amazing. I love it when these athletes decide to go back to their hometowns and play a year before starting in the NBA. So, Jock Landell, guys, you got to take a look at him. His ability of sealing when players go to the hole, he really takes up the entire lane doing so. His rebounding and getting the ball up the court, just his real knowledge of the game. And the fact is that he doesn't even know if he has a mohawk on his head or what it is. And I think that's kind of cool because there's a lot of people who are like doing their own hairstyles like, yeah, I got this going on. But really, man, it's Jock just being Jock. And I love it when players represent like that.
For sure, man. All right. You sent me this thing, and I'm still like getting used to it, dude. It's the hustle stats on the NBA on NBA.com.
Isn't that great stuff, man?
Am I the only one who's brand new to this? I feel like I shouldn't admit it, like I'm ignorant or something, but here we are. I'm ignorant. I don't know about all this stuff, and I'm looking at it right now. And the one player on the Thunder that I see over and over and over again is Kenny Hustle.
Yeah.
Right? He's taken 3 charges. So charges drawn per 36, he leads the NBA at 1.93. Look, 3 games in, we shouldn't get too carried away, but we're going to keep an eye on this type of stuff. Total charges drawn, he's tied for first with 3, with Kevin Love and Patrick Beverly. There's a few other things that...
Loose ball recoveries. He's at 2.6 per 36, which leaves him 7th in the league.
Nice.
He's just out there, Mark, every single time, just hustling, and you can't help but notice these things.
Yeah, and there's a few other elements of it, like charges drawn per 36. We see Omarui out there at number 7. We have different elements, and we're going to keep an eye on this shit, like I keep saying, because it's a bigger picture type stuff. Lou Dort is tied for 9th with contested 3s per game. And contested 3s per 36. Baisley, 6.9, so 10th place. That's a surprise to me, right?
But his blocks come out from the 3-point range.
Right, but that's a lot. Like nearly 7 contested 3-pointers per game. That means that he's being put on a lot of guards, or at least a lot of people who feel comfortable shooting from behind the 3-point line. Dort is tied for 7th in the contested 3 totals with 14. Look, there's a lot of bullshit in here too, like especially this early in the season, things that are irrelevant. But we want to keep an eye on this stuff. Some other players that we talk real positive about, Isaiah Stewart from Detroit, he's leading the league in box outs per game, 5.3.
For him, man.
I don't know. How is it you're only boxing people out 5.3 times per game? I don't know. Anyway, some of these stats are new to me.
It's about the contact. It's about the contact you make.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like, if there's no contact and you just seal your player, there's not. I never really consider those a box out, but I know how some people do consider those box outs. So it's all about how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah. So good stuff to keep an eye on. There's, Jared Vanderbilt from Utah leading the league in loose ball recoveries. That's, to me, a stat that I really like to focus on. Deflections are great, and we should definitely make sure, we continue to keep an eye on that. But when you're talking about loose ball recoveries, what I think about is a desire to dive on the floor first. And we've always heard whoever gets on the ground first usually gets it. So that's what I want to see. That's what's going to make up this team.
It's what our dad used to say, man.
Right.
It's that reckless abandonment, right? You put your body on the line, don't really care what happens to it. A lot of these guys that dive on the floor, the first guy that's down on the floor gets trampled on or gets, dove on top of. I mean, there's no protection when the ball's loose like that. There's no ref's going to be like, you landed on him, foul. I mean, yeah, there's some that will call it, but it's not a consistent call. You can't, automatically assume that's the call you're going to get. But man, it's all about what you put out there, and those hustle stats mean everything. It's always how it's been. It's if you're doing the hustle stats, you're doing all the things that are right.
Yeah, let's talk about this team section of it. Deflections per game, the Thunder are 4th with 18.7, and they're also 4th in total deflections at 56. Loose balls recovered per game, the Thunder are 6.3 at 6th, and with total of 20 of them. So, those are the things I like seeing. Deflections, loose balls recovered. If the Thunder can make their way in those things, being the youngest team in the NBA, the other stuff will come. That's practice. That's
charges
repetition.
drawn,
That's
number
drills.
1.
Right. Charges drawn as a team, number 1. That's right. We're averaging 2 a game. So
it's what everything, man. It's all the little things.
It is. But in the end, the Lakers are leading the league in deflections. So doesn't necessarily mean wins.
No. Hustle stats don't always mean wins, but hustle stats mean that you have the players. The players are playing for you. The players are playing well, and they're just doing what it takes to win games. And I think that's the key that we're looking at, and what we're understanding with this team is that's why when we're looking at defensive stats, we're looking at hustle stats, and we're looking at offensive stats, it's where this team ranks, because we want to see that improvement every single year. If that improvement's happening, then everything is happening inside the organization. And it's all about how it's being taught, how these guys are learning, and how these guys are bulking up and getting better on a daily basis. And when we see these stats that prove that these guys are going out there and doing whatever it takes and getting charges and leading the league in charges drawn, 6 total. So it's 2 per game. But we get J. Will out there, and all of a sudden it's going to bump that up. We get JRE playing a little bit more, and it's going to bump that up. Kenny Hustle's going to help that stat. It's all these little things that are all going to come together, and all of a sudden it's going to be like, wow, we just knocked out 12 wins in a row. Well, how is that possible? Because defensive stats, everything starts going well. Hustle stats, everything starts going well. And our offense gets on track. It's almost impossible to beat us if this is what's happening. And that's why Mark and I get excited about the future of this team and recognizing where this team's at right now and where this team is going. And that's where it's at. Is all of a sudden it's like being able to sit back and appreciate all the little things that are happening right now inside the organization. And yeah, that means that we have to watch some shit basketball sometimes. And that's not talking nasty about the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, man. You're watching basketball and your team doesn't score for 12 minutes. Well, that's shit basketball. And we're seeing this happen less and less. Like last year, we would go on these crazy streaks of not scoring, and Mark and I would look at each other and be like, well, next year, if we can cut those streaks out of not scoring down to, 3 or 4 minutes of not scoring and see the improvement, that's what we need. And that's what's happening this year. We're seeing that improvement from last year. And yeah, that doesn't mean that, these guys are all going to be able to play and play every single game, but we just want to see that improvement. This is not a win now team. This is not win now or go home team. This is not that. The commissioner is not going to throw us down to the G League for not, coming in first place this year. So knowing that, we could take a step back and really just try to enjoy what's happening with Oklahoma City. And that's all Mark and I want. We just want to enjoy what's happening inside the locker rooms. And God damn it, that sounded so dirty.
That's okay, dude.
We just want to enjoy what's happening with this team. That's it, in the organization. We don't really care what's happening in the locker rooms.
We don't. But maybe we do. But
Maybe.
So one thing I think about, and I'm pretty damn sure that Sam Presti is the person who I heard say this first, but hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And in the end,
damn,
you'll look at this team and say, oh, well, we're not necessarily as talented as everybody. But that's why we want to focus on the hustle stats. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to run into teams that are really good, who are really talented, and who work really hard. And they're going to beat us. But if we lay down the foundation of hard work through deflections, diving on the ball for the loose ball, on taking charges, those types of things, as the talent comes in, we're going to be one of those teams that works really hard, that has top-level talent. And that's what it takes to win a championship in the NBA. So
you're right.
That's what we're all about. So that's why we do what we do.
All day, every day, man. The Thunder is everything to us. And anybody that knows who Mark and I are and talks to Mark and I, like, yeah, we get on other subjects and we talk about other things once in a while, but really our true passion is the Oklahoma City Thunder. We love what's happening inside the organization and have loved what's happening inside the organization since day one. We had the privilege of knowing Sam Presti when he was in San Antonio, not really knowing him, but knowing of him in San Antonio. My father knows Lanergan over there in San Antonio, is one of the owners there. So we were always around that situation. I got a chance to meet David Robinson at the San Antonio Event Center, wherever that's at, but it's where the main basketball court is at. And I was able to meet David Robinson there, and there was a bunch of the people inside of their organization there as well. So we've rubbed shoulders throughout our times in San Antonio, but it's crazy to me to see how at that time a young kid getting chosen by Oklahoma City to really, hey, here you go. Here's the keys to the city. We believe in what you can do. I mean, like, listen, anytime that you have a $1 billion organization and you hand it to a 34-year-old or 30, whatever. Sam,
I think he was 28.
Yeah, 28. Thank you. Like 28 years old. And here you go. Here's the keys. Think about that, man. Oh, and by the way, we're moving to Oklahoma City.
You're starting over. You got no practice facility.
You got nothing. You got to figure this all out yourself.
You don't have a name.
Like, holy shit. And Sam Presti at 28 or 29, whatever it was, he was fucking chill. He did not give a shit about it at all. Like, all he did was take a step back and he worked the stuff out. He got Russ, he got Ibaka, James Harden, and everything else worked out. Like, that's what we just saw with the reset. But when the reset happened, it wasn't like last time. We didn't just have our picks and who we traded, Ray Allen for. We have gobs of picks. We had like 20-something first rounders for a while. Like, think about that, guys. Like, this is the future. And people were saying, oh, well, some of those first rounders will never, turn out to be anything. You're right. Some of them will never. But who else are you going to bet on in the NBA?
Yeah.
To get late round picks and turn them into gold? Who else can you truly bet on? Sam Presti is it, guys.
So get on board.
Oh,
Get the fuck on board. If you're not a Thunder fan, it's time to wake up. Smell the coffee. Take a sip of the app sniff. Take a toke of the blunt. Join us on the hype train because that's what we do every single day. And we bring it to you guys 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we hope that you'll tell your friends. We hope that you'll continue to join us. We hope that you fall in love with this team like we do. Yeah, it's a long way up. You know, it may feel like we're about to climb a mountain, but hey, we're just glad that you're there for us, with us, through this process because, like, we'd do it alone if we had to, but in the end, knowing that we've got a couple hundred people who've got our back every step of the way, well, it makes it all worth it. So we appreciate you guys.
Couple hundred, come on. Give our fans more than that. We appreciate the hundreds of you that tune in. And that's as simple as that. Like, there is no more couple hundred. It's intense, man. Like, we're getting so much love from every place around the world. It's truly spectacular. Malaysia, we had a ton of downloads from Malaysia. I want to throw this out here. What's happened in Australia to us is insane. We love Australian listeners, point out blank, but I was contacted by 5 different people from Melbourne this last week. Unbelievable, man. I get so pumped when I talk about Australian basketball, whether it's the NBL, whether it's footy, whether it's the AFL. It makes me so fucking pumped to know that we have a huge, huge, strong base from Australia. So thanks again, guys. We really fucking appreciate you guys.
We love you. And we will see you Wednesday.